Chapter 4. Joe Mama. Humbo and Gilbert finally made it to the land of the Joes. On the way, they met a wise guru named Dave. Dave helped them along their way to Joe Land. They found several posters throughout the country depicting Smith and Tyler in a sympathetic light. The text below the images read, Kurwa, allegestem Napoloni. Humbo and Gilbert didn't know Jolish, so they asked Dave to translate. Dave was like, I'm a little rusty, but let me try. It says, we miss Smith and Tyler very much. Humbo and Gilbert then wept and kissed the poster. They walked to the nearest casino to have some fun with all the money and euros they stole from the terrorists. They went to the roulette table, and when it was their turn, the lights dimmed, and Humbo said in a dark, powerful voice, Can I put chicken on black? The room fell silent, and in slow motion the ball tossed around the spinning wheel. The women fainted from the pressure. The spotlights of the casino exploded from the power resonating off this roulette wheel. And after all this, Humbo lost. There was no chicken on black that day. So Humbo grabbed the guy that spun the wheel's face and smashed it through the table and curb stomped him. Humbo knew the guy rigged it. That's all fucking Jolish people are good for, rigging games and stealing money. Blood and brains were everywhere, and both our heroes spit on the fucking retard's dead body. After Humbo and Gilbert blew up the casino and stole all the money, they headed for a hotel to unpack their bags. On the way to the hotel, they met Joe Rogan. He asked them for an interview, and they sat in this weird room. In case you don't know, Joe Rogan is this based commentator and podcast guy that talks about how COVID vaccines are bad, and he loves Neil deGrasse Tyson or something. Just know he's really based, and he also smokes weed and does MDMA. Anyway, Joe was like, so how's your trip in Joland? How are the kids? Is it true that Billy Squire is your #1 fan? Also, is it true that Smith and Tyler are your dads? Humbo and Gilbert, wide-eyed, looked at Joe. The fuck did you say, you fucking prick? We don't have dads. We only have loving moms that raised us well. Joe Rogan then transformed into a demonic slug creature and shouted, Mam bigunke, and devoured Smith and Tyler, sending them to an alternate dimension that was like some floating island, kind of like in Skylanders. It was here that Humbo and Gilbert realized where they were. This was the mythical area that Smith and Tyler were sent to. They walked around and found two amazingly buff guys. They sat next to them, and the guys were sweating due to how much exercising and cool shit they were doing. Humbo and Gilbert spent what seemed to be several hours with these strangers, telling stories and working out together. One of the strangers turned to Humbo and said, You're doing great, son. Someday you'll rise through the ranks and even outmatch us. Humbo recognized him and said, Holy shit, you're Smith Smithers. And he nodded and vanished. Gilbert had the same experience, yada, 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 you fucking get it. Humbo and Gilbert cried manly tears and screamed, We'll never forget you. The song Landslide by Fleetwood Mac started playing, such a sad moment. Suddenly, Humbo and Gilbert felt stronger. They felt they could take on the entire world. So they literally grabbed the air of this dimension and ripped it apart. The tear through the world opened a portal they could walk through. They were back in Joe Land, but into the future. John P. Satan Jr. had already risen to power, and the world was in chaos. Humbo and Gilbert knew that they should use the new powers their fathers gave them to destroy evil once and for all. They both shot into the sky and headed for the large castle that housed the Prince of Darkness. To be continued.